So here we are at the Lanayru region looking for the third portion of the Song of the Hero. In particular, we're looking to meet up with the Thunder Dragon to learn his portion of the song. Once you arrive, you'll find Golo the Goron here. We were talking to him much earlier on in the quest, and he was sort of like mining away or digging against one of the walls of the Lanayru caves, and we couldn't really progress in that direction earlier. However, he has now made progress, and there's now a narrow passageway that we can sneak on through, but Golo the Goron cannot quite fit through himself. It's worth noting that you could have done the Lanayru portion of the Song of the Hero first. However, there's an ever so important glitch in the game that's very much worth noting. You just spoke with Golo the Goron there, and after you go through the quest, basically, and once you learn the portion of the song, the Thunder Dragon's portion of the Song of the Hero, immediately after you learn it, you do not want to talk to Golo the Goron. It's just a game glitch pretty much, where if you speak with Golo the Goron after completing the quest in Lanayru, but before going to either the Faerun or the Elden regions, this will be a game-breaking glitch, and the scenes that start the quests in both the Faerun and Elden regions, they'll never trigger, as it's almost as if you haven't completed the Lanayru quest, even though you already have. Basically, it's a big, huge glitch in the game, and you pretty much don't have to worry about it at all as long as you do the Elden and Faerun regions before the Lanayru region. Anyway, continuing on, here we are at the Lanayru Gorge. This continues the trend in a way that even though we've already been to the Lanayru region, now this is the third time, there's still a whole new region that we didn't even discover within the Lanayru region. So it's kind of cool. It was sort of that way with the Elden and Faerun regions, but not to this extent. I mean, the Elden region, you were still in the same area, but things were redesigned. And then in the Faerun region, everything was underwater. For the Lanayru region, luckily, it's a brand new area, albeit it's quite small, but it is a new area nonetheless. You can run straight ahead, and there's these huge set of bones, and then there's like a skull with those like yellow, like lightning-like eyes. Well, that seems very mysterious, but we'll figure that out a little bit later. It sort of looks like a giant dinosaur, really, like dinosaur bones. At least that's the initial impression I got when I first saw it. Anyway, there's a boulder off to the right, but well, you want to use a bomb, and just use the bomb with the beetle. You could time a bomb, like lifting it over your head and hoisting it, throwing it towards a rock, but just use the beetle. There's a locked door over here, but we don't have the key to unlock it. If you look off in the distance here, all the way at the bottom, there's a shiny thing just sort of shining, and that is the small key. So you want to use your beetle to go and pick it up. This took me a long time to figure out, actually. I don't know, I just couldn't figure it out. I actually saw the shiny thing, but I didn't think to, I was like trying to jump down towards it. I didn't really think to use the beetle, and I don't know, I sort of got stuck for a good, I'd say 10-15 minutes just on this particular portion of the Lanayru Gorge. But once you finally have the small key, go ahead and use it on the locked door, and it'll continue on here. Basically, this entire area, that was like the main area we just were in the Lanayru Gorge. Now this sort of corridor basically goes all the way around the Lanayru Gorge. It's basically a very linear pathway. There's really no diversion from the route. It's a straight line. Well, not really a straight line, but a straight pathway that curves. So it is quite linear, and basically once you activate this minecart that has a time shift stone on it, it'll the ancient robot will basically awaken, or not really awaken, but since the time has shifted, you can now speak to him. But they're transporting this time shift stone all the way over to the Thunder Dragon. And I like how the robot's still talking to you, even though like we've moved beyond the area that's being covered by the time shift stone. Anyway, this minecart basically follows along the same pathway all the way around the Lanayru Gorge, basically around the outskirts of the Lanayru Gorge. And the endgame goal is to make its way all the way over to the Thunder Dragon in the main portion of the Lanayru Gorge. If you were just wandering around within the gorge itself, you might have noticed that there's like sort of like a track that is there, and there's a spot where a minecart, or rather a time shift stone, could fit. So that's pretty much our goal. In general, this region has just a bunch of regular enemies that we've fought already before. In fact, I don't think there is a single new enemy in this whole area. There are a couple new obstacles, I suppose, but it's basically Deku Babas, there's some Quadro Babas, Technoblins, and there's some Demos later on. Basically, all the same enemies that we previously saw in the Lanayru Desert region, as well as in the like the sand ship and the Lanayru mining facility. In general, it's kind of cool, since this whole like pathway, it's based around the time shift stone, in that like it's constantly shifting the land between basically the present and the past. Very similar to the area just before the sand ship, although that was while we were carrying a time shift orb, while this sort of happens automatically. It's cool, it's fun. In general, I wish they would have done more of this. In particular, more of the time shift orb portion. I mean, we saw it in that one area before the sand ship, and then there's one room later on towards the end, or actually a couple rooms towards the end of the game. But this one is sort of, it's cool, but it's not as fun as the time shift orb. I just think it's one of the cool mechanics of Skyward Sword. The whole like real-time transition between past, or between present and past. But nevertheless, while you're climbing along these vines, there's a number of stamina fruit, and you'll need to pick these up because this is a pretty lengthy sequence while we are climbing on these vines. So you don't want to run out of stamina, otherwise well, you'll basically fall down, since you won't be able to just stay up that long. Watch out for the air geysers. You don't want to jump across while the air is shooting out from the hole. I guess that's common sense. Well, the track, or the minecart below, it sort of gets stuck. It hits a wall, and in order to progress, we'll have to step on the tile switch that is nearby. Just use your claw shots to target over to a couple of consecutive targets, and then step on the switch, and this will open up the door below, and it'll cause the cart to continue along the pathway. This next section is incredibly straightforward, although it's kind of epic looking. It's just too easy. Like, you're just clawing from like place to place, and sort of reminds me of very reminiscent of the City in the Sky from Twilight Princess, where there's a number of pillars with targets, and you're just clawing from place to place. Although it's just so, I don't know, it's so straightforward, linear. There's no obstacles, no enemies, virtually no enemies at least. In fact, there's some keys floating around, but as soon as, you know, the time shift stone moves in the direction, the keys disappear. So there's virtually no enemies, and yeah, I mean, this area is not hard at all. It's not difficult. There's really very little challenge, at least in this particular section. Some of the outdoor sections, like the challenges, you know, you might fall into the abyss or sink in the sink sand, but there was no, like, you know, real challenge where it's like a lot of puzzles or difficult enemies or anything of that nature. Kind of disappointing, but it's still a fun area. Once you get to this area, you want to pull out your whip, and you can latch onto the bar that's on the other side of the gate, and this will lower the gate so you can continue on. A couple of these massive green choo-choos, and this is another time where I sort of question the progression of the enemies. I mean, why not, if just for a difficulty sake, why not yellow choo-choos? And these green choo-choos are just slash away, they're pretty much harmless. I don't know. Over here you want to use your whip to like swing across the gap. I like in general how this area sort of encompasses a lot of the enemies that we've fought already and a lot of the same obstacles. So it sort of, especially the item use, you find yourself using items that like doing the same puzzles you did in previous dungeons, but now you're doing it sort of all at once. Over here there's some blade traps, and you can actually use the minecart to sort of block the spikes so you don't take damage. This is sort of reminiscent of, it's like A Link to the Past had a lot of puzzles like this. Over here you'll notice a quick flash in the video. That's because I completely failed this area. I actually sunk beneath the sink sand, and I failed and had to like go back about a minute and a half in the video to an earlier portion, so rather than showing that, I'll just skip ahead. You want to run along the sink sand and pick up the stamina fruit along the way. Pull the bar and then continue along. This area has a number of enemies, in particular the Beamos. They can be quite annoying, as well as Centrobes. It's worth noting that other than there's one Beamos that's directly in your way, it's basically on the track, pretty much every other enemy you do not need to defeat, at least while the cart is moving. You can just keep moving, and the enemies pretty much will eventually go off the area that's being highlighted by the time shift stone. So you could avoid them. You don't even need to kill them, especially the Centrobes. They're kind of annoying to defeat, especially while the cart is moving. So just keep moving out of the way, and eventually you'll come to a door that has a Beamos on each side. You will have to defeat the Beamos on the left, because you need to pull the bar down that the Beamos is located here. Once you pull down the bar, quickly follow behind the time shift stone, the cart. This door actually will close behind you. Once again, you might have noticed a quick little flash right there. That was because there's a rather embarrassing failure right here. Basically, what you want to do is move along these platforms as they appear, and you want to defeat the Dekubaba. From here, you want to sort of turn around and use your beetle, grab onto the bomb here, and then use it to explode this boulder. What I had done is I broke the boulder, but I had put the bomb too close to the minecart, and it caused the time shift stone to also hit, so it reverted the area to the present, and there was no platform, and I just fell into the abyss. It's kind of funny. All that really does, though, is it basically sets you back, not that much, just right before you enter that outdoor region. Anyway, we've made it back to the main area of the Lanayru Gorge, so at this point, just wait for the cart to appear, and this will trigger a little scene, and this will basically bring life to the whole area and awaken the Thunder Dragon. So we've now activated or reverted the area to the past with the time shift stone, and we can now speak with the Thunder Dragon. But of course, he's not just going to teach us this song that easy. Come on. Well, it's much more like the Water Dragon from earlier. We have to basically do a quest even after meeting the dragon in order to learn this portion of the song of the hero. So the Thunder Dragon is sick, and we need to basically cure him of his illness. Run ahead to this portion of the Lanayru Gorge, and after using the gust bellows to clear off the dust, hit the time shift stone, and the dead tree just turns into a little seedling. And you can actually go dig up the life tree seedling, and it talks about how this is like a legendary tree that grows this life fruit and such. And then the ancient robot here is like, "What are you doing? That's our life tree. We, planted it so we can feed, or we can take the fruit that it gives off to cure the Thunder Dragon." Well, since you tell the ancient robot you're sort of on his side, he gives you the hint that you should go replant it somewhere, but not in the Lanayru desert region, because, well, this is a desert after all. So we'll be taking that elsewhere in just a moment. You also want to activate the goddess treasure, or the goddess cube over there, and this is actually the 27th and final goddess cube in the game. So we've now activated all of them, and it's just the remaining goddess treasure chest in the sky that we need to get. Over here, go ahead and just use the beetle to activate the time shift stone, and run on over to the bird statue. You can save your progress, and then return to the sky, because we need to head elsewhere in order to plant the tree seedling. We sort of had a hint earlier from Groose as to where we really need to be planting this life tree seedling, and that's back over at the Seal Temple in the Farron region. So jump back on your Loftling, and I'm sort of just going to fast forward through the flying segments like usual, and return to either behind the Seal Temple or to the sealed grounds. And our next destination is back over at the Sealed Temple. You'll find Groose just off to that section to the side of the Sealed Temple, and you could talk to him, and he sort of mentions this is an interesting spot, and you could grow something here, but it will take a very long time. Well, considering we are in the past, we are in the present, and there's a giant gate of time right here that takes you to the past. This is actually a cool puzzle that I actually figured this out almost instantly. It was like no hesitation. I immediately knew what I needed to do. Go through the portal, return to the past at the Temple of Hylia. It's not the Seal Temple yet. And just run on over to the side of the temple, and there's that same little area here, and you can plant the seedling. So now that we've planted it in the past, and this is the distant past, it's in a couple hundred years or whatever, once you head through the gate of time and return to the present, that little seedling that we planted in the past is now a full-blown tree. And not just a tree, but it has a giant life fruit attached to it. Basically a fruit that's grown. Like I was just one of them, and it's so gigantic. I like how it appears so small. It's almost like an apple, maybe a little bigger than that. But later on during a scene, it's not even up to my clothing. It's just above my kneecaps. But in just a moment, when we actually give it to the Thunder Dragon, the thing just appears gigantic. I guess they sort of messed up the size of the fruit in terms of the actual gameplay and in terms of the cutscenes. But that's pretty much all we need to do. And you might be asking, at least this was my initial reaction. It's we just planted a tree in the forest region and It's like a special tree that has these life fruits, and it's in the Farron, the Farron region near the temple. My initial instinct was, does this go on to be the Great Deku Tree in Ocarina of Time? Who knows? Perhaps. Perhaps not. I don't know. Don't think we can ever know. It's just speculation. Perhaps there's something that we can theorize about it, but I don't know. I don't know if anybody else had that initial reaction when they were thinking about the tree. But anyway, we're gonna fly back over to the Lanayru Gorge, and at this point, just run on over to the Thunder Dragon, and Link. This will trigger a cutscene where Link will give him the fruit. So now that we know all three of the pieces of the Song of the Hero, we can return to Levias over in Thunderhead. However, there's now a huge side quest we can now take part in right here in the Lanayru Gorge, and I'll be covering that in the next video. So I will see you guys then.